Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a big old IPA from Adroit Theory. Been a while since I've had one of theirs, and this specific one is one that's in their Evangelion naming convention line. So this specific beer is Evangelion 15 Arael. As always, they give us a ghost number. This one is Ghost 914. This specific beer is a double dry hopped hazy triple IPA, clocks in at 10% ABV, and Adroit Theory is based in Purcellville, Virginia, though it's worth noting that on this specific beer, it said it was brewed and canned in Vent Hill. And I've seen that before, so I know they have multiple locations. Nonetheless, this one also has been brewed with lactose, and as always, they give us the bill of hops on their IPAs. So this specific one has Mosaic, Citra, Southern Passion, Galaxy, and Simcoe. So we've got a little bit of age on here, and as always, Adroit Theory has some of the best label art in the game. I'll angle that down away from the direct contact of the lights. Hopefully that'll pick it up even better. Try angle it a couple different ways just to make sure. Looks awesome. This one's got a skull with a eagle skull face below it. Always cool. So let's just get this one cracked gently. Okay, perfect. Get this poured right in the old big old glass. This should hold the whole thing. All right, this one does not look like it's having any trouble with head formation, so I'm going to dial back the speed here just a bit. Yeah, that's forming a very nice head, so I won't quite get that whole beer in that glass out of the gate. Visually, that is the textbook color I think of when I think of an IPA. It's that really bright kind of golden yellow color. Yeah, they say it's a hazy. It is most definitely hazy. Very hazy, very occluded. I can see floating around in the beer some small particulates. No problem with that. And by and large, it's a little hard to tell because it is hazy, but it looks like it's pretty fast activation of the carbonation moving there. So I'm sure that attributed to this lush, thick head. Very kind of mix of small and medium-sized bubbles. So kind of as I expected. Head, no problem at all. Looks fantastic. Let's give it a good sniff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very fruity. So, aroma-wise, it's picking up very tropical fruit notes with a little bit of citrus behind. Notably orange and grapefruit for the citrus. For the tropical fruit, it's kind of like a mix of mango and passion fruit. Smells really, really nice. There's also an under kind of play of floral accents coming from the hops themselves. Don't really smell like fruit, just smell like bouquet of fresh flowers, fresh wildflowers kind of paired in there. I'm not really picking up any notable pine, resinous, tar-like qualities, which given some of the hops in their bill would have been easy to detect. But I'm not getting them on the aroma. Not really picking up any earthy vibe either. It's very much a fruit forward aroma profile coming off of this beer. So head, quite thick. It's settled down just a little bit. Look, it is what it is. I'm going to make a huge mess in my beard, but we're going to jump right in. We can always top this off later. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, so the very first thing I can tell you right away, this may be a hazy double dry hop triple, and it may be a hazy at its core, but they were not shy with extracting the alphas into the boil on this one. This definitely has a nice bitter presence, and the profile's coming through. There's a little bit of underlying fruit-like quality that comes through in the flavor profile, but the most dominant of the hop profiles that's coming through with the greatest intensity is indeed a mix of kind of pine, resin, tar, and earthy underlying tones, which, given their bill of their high alpha acid content hops and the profiles of them, makes perfect sense. So we've got Simcoe, Citra, and Mosaic. Mosaic can sometimes, in high quantities, give this funky-like vibe. I'm not getting any of that in this. It's also known for imparting blueberry aroma and flavor profiles. I'm not really getting that in this. Still a nice hop for high alpha acid extraction. But what's really coming through is that dominant earthiness, that really earthy sense of bitters, and that pine and resinous and tar-like quality. That is the mass influx of what is being presented in terms of hop flavor. Secondary to that is really where the kind of fruit essences are lying. So it does indeed have a flavor profile that's kind of a mix of tropical fruit, and it does very much taste like a mix of mangoes and passion fruit like I got on the nose. So that is translated into the flavor profile. Smelled some citrus on the nose. That is translating in the glass. Though, as you might expect on one that's a little more bitter intense, it doesn't so much taste like the flesh of the fruit, so much it is citrus oils, citrus rind. So it's got that more bitter side, but distinctly citric in the way it's presenting itself. In terms of the length of the finish, this one's longer than your average hazy to be certain, because it does have quite a pronounced hop bittering profile up front. But I'm going to jump back in, get a second sip. I'm going to think on this body, this mouthfeel, see exactly how this finishes out. Really enjoyable IPA. Body on this one somewhere between medium and medium heavy. More or less feels like I would expect for a triple at 10%. Mouthfeel very resistant, very viscous. You agitate around the palate. This one does get significantly thicker and quite creamy. It's got a nice, creamy, silky texture to it. In terms of a second sip and intensification of flavors, picking up anything new? No. Exactly what I got on the first sip comes through again on the second sip. It just intensifies a little. Really one minor thing that I'm noticing in the background after about 10-15 seconds now is that some of that inherent citric side that was entirely rind and oil, there was a little bit of that coming through as more of a juice-like quality. Again, this beer does have lactose, so it's going to give just this natural back of a little bit of sweetening ability for these hop fruity profiles to actually come through and kind of taste like them. So even though they didn't brew it with fruit, the lactose is still a smart choice for letting these inherent qualities of the hops shine through and kind of taste like that profile. And it does. It works quite well. In terms of the finish, as you would expect with an IPA, it's nice and wet and round at the end. This one has a longer than average finish, though it's not out of this world. This is not like West Coast style IPA with lingering, pungent, lingering bitters. It is longer than average, but it's not quite in that ballpark. Overall, this is a very, very nice, very well done for my money hazy triple. Absolutely love it. Adroit Theory always puts out great beers. I like trying all their IPAs that come out with. All of these Evangelion ones they've had have been really nice, really interesting, and they try to use different kind of combinations of ingredients when they do them, so they're all a little bit different. I'm a fan of this one. I'm going to take my time to sip on this, come up my scores. When we come back, we'll get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. Again, this is Adroit Theory's Evangelion 15 Arael, Ghost number 9114. This is a hazy double dry hopped triple IPA, clocking it at 10% ABV, brewed with lactose and a laundry list of hops: Mosaic, Citra, Southern Passion, Galaxy, and Simcoe. Adroit Theory is based in Purcellville, Virginia. So starting with the aroma on this. The aroma on this was quite nice and it was quite pungent. I mean, that's a big list of hops, and indeed they made their presence known. It smelled very floral and very fruity, and there was a mix of different kind of fruit overtones. Not as many of the other side profiles of hops like earthy and resinous in the aroma, but what did come through was quite nice and it was above average pungency. Overall, the aroma does get an 8 out of 10. For the taste. The taste I absolutely loved on this beer. Tons of hops, high alpha, and they were not shy about getting the alpha acids extracted into the boil. There was a very nice kick of bitters up front, and once you got into the flavor profile, the kind of hop characteristics that didn't come through in the aroma made themselves known in the flavor profile for sure. So it was full on tropical fruit, there was citrus rind and oils, there was earthiness, there was pine tar, resin. It was really all in there, and it tasted absolutely amazing. The taste gets a 10 out of 10. For the body, Well, this is a triple IPA that's got lactose in it, so you might suspect the body was big, and indeed you'd be correct. It was quite large. Even for 10%, it felt even more robust than that ABV, which is not low, but it felt like it was nearing 13 to 15 range. It was absolutely huge. Body does get a perfect 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel, again, it's a high ABV IPA. They call it a triple, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. But then again, we get this lactose infusion, and that naturally tends to thicken beers up quite a bit. And there was a ton of viscosity and a ton of resistance to this beer. It was even more resistant and viscous than I expected for this ABV range, but I wasn't really thinking about the lactose at the time. So yeah, it was truly impressive, and it paired beautifully with that nice, huge, robust body. Mouthfeel gets a 10 out of 10. For the finish on this beer was quite nice. It was absolutely longer than average, and really, when you get a bunch of high alpha acid content hops into a beer, chances are you're going to get a longer than average finish. And that was the case here. Sure, it's a standard IPA. You know, there are some barrel-aged IPAs, not that many, but this is not a barrel-aged imperial stout. So really the length was impressive for what it was. It was longer than average, but not top tier. I've had some, obviously, West Coast styles. They're going to get a lot more intensity of those bitters that really help drive it out, but this was impressive for a hazy. Overall, the finish was above average. It gets a 7 out of 10. For the head and retention, this one did an absolutely tremendous job. It formed right away. It was thick, creamy, lush, stuck around the entire time. Head and retention gets a 10 out of 10. For the appearance was that textbook IPA color, and a hazy should look hazy. Indeed, this was quite occluded. Appearance does get a perfect 10 out of 10. For the balance, I loved the balance on this beer. This, for me, aside from taste, is really the make or break category that's going to set the stage for how the beer does in general, and also how it does for me subjectively. So this is not a subjective category, but subjectively it's where the biggest weight is going to come from. And the balance on this was absolutely tremendous. A lot of hazy IPAs focus so much on the juicy, the fruity side that they fail to get enough bitters extracted into the boil. Don't get me wrong. Yes, this was bitter forward up front and had enough to drive it out longer than average, but this is not a West Coast style IPA. It's not pungency of bitters. The IBUs would not be racking up into triple digits. But for what it was very, very impressive. The balance of the hops that they used in the various stages all had their place to play, and it made just for a fantastic beer drinking experience. The aroma shared commonality with the taste, but they weren't identical, and that is part of what keeps a beer interesting, and they balanced this one beautifully to do just that. Balance does get a 10 out of 10. Feeling in the intangible, subjectively, I loved this beer. I drink a fair bit of hazies. They're not my preferred style, but every time I get one that actually does have a noticeable bitter bite, it just puts a smile on my face. This did just that. Feeling in the intangible does get a 10 out of 10. Which brings us finally to the example of the style. So this is a double dry hopped triple hazy. I think that this is a really, really great example of a hazy IPA that's big and bold and done right, but still is sticking true to its sub-style. By and large, the inherent traits of this beer were focused on the aroma and the flavor that comes through from the hops, and less so on the bitters. Even though it did have a nice bitter forward profile, it wasn't the pungency of, say, a West Coast, or to that range that doesn't let these underlying flavors come through. That happened in this beer, and it made for a really well-rounded, well-balanced beer drinking experience. I think this is a great example of how to do a hazy properly. Example of the style does get a 10 out of 10, which brings the total score on Adroit Theory's Evangelion 15 Arael Ghost 914 to a 95 out of 100. So here we are again, another Adroit Theory beer, well above average. They are very consistent at producing very high quality beers. I love all of the beers I've had in the Evangelion series. If you're looking for a new IPA to try and you find these, either if you live locally in the DC greater metro area, or if you're ordering from Tavour, keep your eyes out. These are fantastic, and I do recommend all of them. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It truly does help the channel. I know it's a hassle, have to click some buttons. It takes a couple seconds, but it really does help. If you like our content, let us know. And if you want to know when our videos go live on YouTube, if you haven't already done so, you can toggle on the notifications, click that bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.